Now, one of our favorite subjects on this channel is silver. And we're going to be talking about why the timing is just right for silver and a lot of things that people don't quite realize that can truly happen to the supply and demand squeeze on silver as governments began to talk more and more about the electrification of the world. And here to discuss that subject is Andrew. He is the chairman of Appollo Silver. We'll put the website right there down below to Appollo Silver. Make sure you hit the like button on this video to send it out in the YouTube universe. Comment down below, go Silver go, right there down below. And it's good to see you, Andrew.
Good to see you too, Jake. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. So tell me, why is the timing just right for silver?
Well, I think timing's important in everything. And, I've been in this business for 30 something years and I've timed some entrants and some exits quite well for the benefit of shareholders in a few things, lithium and gold. And I'm convinced that there's a decoupling coming between the price of gold and the price of silver, and that we're going to see silver start to escalate. For the first time in 200 years, there's a physical shortage of silver, or that's not fair to say. It's the greatest physical silver shortage in the last 200 years. The consumption of silver is increasing dramatically. Look, Friday, we had a great day in the market. And I just think that the timing's now. I got this feeling we're heading into, you said it earlier, this green revolution, and the green revolution is going to change everything. Silver's used in EVs, solar cells, the 5G networks. So, and I guess in the Internet of Things, when you think about, more than 50% of silver's use is industrial. And think about this, we're going through a big change from a fossil fuel backed economy to a renewable energy and storage of electricity backed economy. And so there's your paradigm shift.
So when you say decoupling from gold and silver, decoupling from one another, do you mean by that silver moves more as a commodity? And what would be the triggers for that?
Yeah, so typically silver trades in a price range of 60 to 1 for gold, sometimes 70 to 1, but in that range. And I don't think so. Historically, gold's been the precious metal store of wealth, still is. But let's face it, most of the demand for gold is in its store of value. It's a hedge against inflation, and that's only a small component of the silver market. So I believe, and this is kind of the rub. This is where it bites a little bit, because I run another company called Prime Mining, which is a big gold developer, and another 500 million market cap company. But I don't think that the price of gold is going to escalate like the price of silver is going to, just because you don't have that great big industrial demand, and that matters. You can only physical buyers of silver are only going to, I think they control 2 billion ounces of silver, but they only control so much, right? It's industry that changes things.
What do you think will cause industry to wake up with regards to silver?
Well, I think that, I think that industry is now. I got 4 years ago or so, I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't even know if it's 4 or what, but a few years ago, you would drive to work and you'd go, oh, there's a Tesla. And you'd see one, and then on the way home, you'd see one. And then, a couple of years ago, you saw 2 or 3 or 4. But now there is 1 or 2 Teslas on the road right beside you all the time. And I'm just using Tesla as an example, but there are more and more electric cars. But they still only represent what? 5% of the vehicular fleet. I mean, just a tiny fraction, and that's just one component of the greening of the earth. Then there's photo cells and or solar cells, and so I live up in Canada, and we don't get as many hours of sunlight, say, as you do in the South US. But now there are photovoltaic cells that function on different light frequencies that work in northern climates. I think you're going to see a real significant advance in the capturing of solar energy and converting to into storage batteries, and the consequence of that is then, so now you've got another big industrial use. The Internet of Things is only, I mean, let's face it, everything's getting electrified, and electrical circuits use silver. And I think that's the significant part. I just think the timing's right. I think that silver hasn't had a big price move given complete inflation. I think if you look at the cost of everything over the last 40 or 50 years, that you've had a 5 and 10-fold increase in the cost of most things. And I don't think you've seen that in the metal space. So that's where I'm at.
How long do you think that timeline plays itself out for silver? As you say, decoupling from gold and treated more like a commodity. You said about only 5% of the fleet of cars or EVs now. Governments have said they want 100% by all different types of dates. I mean, the amount of mandates they've made, I'm not sure if anyone's done the math on how much silver is needed based off of their mandates, but I would imagine it's more than the entire annual supply of mined silver. So how long do you think this timeline plays itself out?
I think that's the next 10 to 15 years. And markets are generally ahead of that. So, my guess is that you would see the market for these precious metals, for the silver stocks, do it quite well in the next 4 or 5 years.
Now, is this the thesis? You're someone that's been very successful in the mining and exploration industry for a very long time. You've been in it for over 30 years. Got a couple other companies over $500 million market cap. So what made you say, I'm going to go in and start Apollo Silver? Was it because it was just so attractive from the growing need of it and the supply crunch? What's the why behind Apollo Silver?
So the mining's a tough enough business as it is, and I'm one of those guys that really likes to try and build something up and then find a way to sell it to a bigger company. I've done that 5 times out of 9 times so far, and there's still 3 companies that trade today that haven't got bought yet, and so the list is working. And I think that so that's what I want to do, and because I think we all win when we all exit together. And so the silver made the most sense to me. It was, the truth is, I had some guys that fund me in my deals, and so they were early investors in and are still investors in Prime Mining and another company called American Lithium. And before that, they were shareholders of Millennial Lithium, which was announced as to buy out from Ganfeng, I think about 8 weeks ago now. But they came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think of the silver space?" And I said, "I think the timing's really good on it." They said, "Well, we'll fund you if you want to look at doing a silver company." And so that was over a year ago, and it took a year to put together. We looked for assets all over the globe, and we were close on something in Peru, and then close on something in Mexico from another fairly large silver company. And then there was just some bits and pieces that didn't work. And when the assets came up in California, though, we knew they were the right thing. We knew there's a push in for more domestic production. And so there's a good opportunity there. And it just, it was one of those light bulb moments. Hey, the market's going to be there. To build a successful company, you need good assets, a really good management team, and a solid shareholder base and investors and partners that all row the boat in the same direction. And so I believe that the silver investor right now is strong. And so I think that you can get the funding that you want to get to build something that ultimately you can sell at the end of the day.
So let's talk a little bit about silver mines and silver miners. Quite frankly, there aren't that many. There's a lot more gold companies, and there's also a lot more gold that seems to be available right now. So can you talk a little bit about the scarcity that we're seeing, not only in silver companies and silver miners, but in available silver mines themselves?
Yeah, there's very few, there are very few pure silver mines and pure silver plays. It's silver, and I don't know the percentages, but a lot of silver comes as a byproduct from other mines, from copper mines, from gold mines, from lead zinc mines and cobalt mines. And so, but to find a pure play, pure silver, difficult. And then you've got to go to generally other parts of the world to find them. And I don't feel like going to Russia. I think there's complications there. There's Peru's one of the larger silver producers in the world. I think it's number 2. And I mean, they've had 5 presidents in the last 12 months. And so, you've got to find the right place to look for your silver or whatever metal it is. But and then Mexico's got its own complications. I like Mexico a lot, but it's got things that you have to deal with there. There's a narco economy and things that you got to work around. And anyway, all these political influences and geographical instances all affect this industry. And so as a consequence, there are not that many big opportunities for big pure silver mines that I think that are coming on stream these days. And for a guy like me that wants to stay in a North America and a comfortable place, and there's a few other thoughts here. Sorry, I'm rambling for a minute, but there's a lot of little junior silver exploration companies, and then there's a few really big, but there's pretty well a vacuum between, say, a 200 million market cap and a $1 billion market cap. And so you're either a small little junior that's struggling trying to make it, or you're a big silver inventory or a big silver producer. There's a lot of run room in between, and that's where I'm going to get to. That's the part I want. I want to fill that gap between that 200 million and $1 billion and grow a company that sits in there. So,
and then the plan with that is, at that point, then you sell to a very large company that doesn't have the exploration team or resources to do it on their own, and then they're looking for a company like you that develops a mine that then they buy.
That's exactly the plan. And that's what happens all the time in our industry. The best explorers and developers are the juniors, and then they get bought out for if they develop a very good asset or build up a very good asset, they'll get bought out. And there's companies like Coeur d'Alene. There's that's a good silver company that will definitely be looking for assets in the next few years. There'll be a good opportunity. And so, it's one that stands out to me based on what we're doing. But
so what's the future of what do you think the future of commodities in the mining industry looks like over the next decade?
I think prices are going to go up. I think things are going to get better. I think that, there's a big environmental push too. And so you got to be able to deal with that. There's a lot of discussion about, we're in this greening the earth revolution. So I think that the miners have notoriously been hard on the economy, on the environment. And that's got to change. And so I think that you're going to have complications around. Well, look at Tesla. Tesla said, we're only buying ethical cobalt. And so all of a sudden, the big dirty cobalt mines that operate on the sulfides in Indonesia and the Congo don't have a market for their product. And so I think that's going to affect all of the metal markets. Ultimately, that restricts supply. So you're going to have the future mines that come on are going to have to be, they could be more costly. They could be more restricted by all these new environmental standards that are going to have to come in. And as a consequence of that, you'll see prices run up. And then, we've started this conversation by saying that all the recent new push in electrification of the globe is going to result in a big demand boost for silver in all those industries. And so you've got everything leading towards price escalation. And
do you think this will be a sustained price last time in 2011, we saw the spike to 50, then we saw it go back down. This time, I wonder if it's different in that there's so much more of a need in industry and infrastructure, and silver's there's so much higher demand. Do you see a decoupling from gold and then a new normal in price, or is this just another spike up and spike down?
That's really hard to say. And I just don't know. We're going to have a spike for sure. And, human nature repeats itself over and over. So my guess is spike up and then it pulls back and it consolidates somewhere. But let's just say that the new price levels are going to be higher. And I think that at the end of the day, the demand matters. There's going to be too much of a demand for the product. And so it's not like you're not going to just live on recycled silver. You're going to have new silver to feed the machine, and that's going to matter. So, and in my world, you've got to always make sure that, like, I don't want to, some people go buy silver deposits and, or gold deposits, and they go, well, when silver gets to this price, then this will be an economic deposit, and then that's when it's going to be a huge win for our shareholders. I've watched that thesis over the years. I don't particularly like that thesis. I think that any asset I take on, it's got to work at today's prices. Otherwise, I'm not interested in doing it. The run in silver prices when we get it is going to be just a big added bonus to shareholders at the end of the day. When it comes time for us to, by the time we've developed this company out and got ready to package it to somebody, I don't know where silver trades. I just presume it's higher than today.
So tell us a little bit about your resources. You bought them from Pan American Silver, I believe, right? Tell us a little bit about what Apollo Silver has going on.
We bought 3 assets. We bought a project called Waterloo from Pan American. Pan American bought it from a SARCO, a pretty renowned engineering firm in the 70s and 80s, and got bought by Hochschild's. ASARCO drilled off the Waterloo deposit in the 70s and early 80s. Pan American bought it in 1994. At the time, Pan American was building a silver inventory. They weren't a producer. They were just trying to pile up silver ounces on their books. Ultimately, they did switch to a producer, but they started in South America on low-hanging fruit, where costs of production were much cheaper, some big deposits, and that's pretty where they've stayed. So that asset was sitting on their books, but they weren't really doing much with it. We looked at it and saw an amazing opportunity. But more importantly, there was a project right beside it called Langtree that was held by Athena Silver, held by a private group. And we were able to buy that at the same time. And sometimes when you buy 2 deposits that are side by side, you get all the stuff in between them, and you get returns of scale, there's all kinds of other opportunities. My gold company, Prime Mining, is a classic example of that, and where there was two properties side by side held by different companies, and when they got put together, 1 and 1 became 5. And so Apollo Silver is that. We bought Waterloo and Langtree, both in the Calico district of California, and we have an option on Arizona Silver, a classic epithermal silver district in Arizona, and it's more grassroots exploration. But the California assets are significant. They're big. They got some pretty interesting things about them. They're not just silver deposits, they're silver barite deposits. And I don't know if your viewers know anything about barite, but barite is a very heavy mineral, and it sits on the U.S. strategic metal list. That it's one of 35 minerals that's on that strategic list, and 95% of the U.S.'s consumption of barite is imported from China. It's used as a weighting agent in the oil industry, and you can't drill oil wells without, well, you can, but most don't drill oil wells without barite because they have blowouts if they don't use it. Anyway, we're in this for the silver business. The barite to us isn't, if it adds an economic component to the mine, great. But I will tell you that it is going to add an environmental component to the permitting process, which will be pretty helpful. So it's a silver barite play. Historically, there's about 150 or 160 million ounces in those deposits. They're at Waterloo's about 3 ounces to the ton. It's got some high grade veins that are 20 to 30 ounces to the ton. It hasn't had exploration in 25 years. And there's been a lot of changes in not just exploration methods but in metallurgical processing and mine engineering. And so they're assets that really need a fresh look, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, I wonder about your views on the silver market, but also some other strategic commodities that are needed in tech in the future, in that it appears to me that government, which seems to be a common thread with them, have far understated and probably haven't done the math at all on a lot of these important commodities when they're making these mandates. Hey, everything's going to be EV by 2030. And, it seems like they haven't done any math. Then when you couple that with the amount of silver and some of the other important tech commodities that other tech companies need, whether it's Apple, whether it's Tesla, whether it's, Ford is now saying they're doing their electric cars. I mean, they're going to need a lot of not just silver, but some of these other important commodities. And I wonder, how do you think it plays out? Do you think that eventually that governments are going to get involved and try to nationalize? Do you think that corporations are going to try to start buying mines, like Apple will try to buy a mine like yours one day? How do you think it's going to play out when the squeeze starts to become a little bit more obvious?
I think that you're going to get, you're seeing the bigger players come into the space now. For example, in the lithium space, and that's one of my companies, and one of my, I lost the choice of words. Anyway, I love the lithium trade. I think it's a wonderful place to be. I run a company called American Lithium. It's the sister company to Apollo Silver. It's well held in the U.S. There's about 45,000 U.S. shareholders in it, and we operate in Nevada. We have Tesla has their own lithium claims in Nevada. They recently filed and announced a patent on trying to process lithium from the lithium clays of Nevada, which a lot of people are working on. But Tesla's in the game now. They're just not going to rely on other companies like American Lithium or other companies to supply them lithium. They're trying to do it themselves. And so you can see more of that. You'll see vertical integration in the space for sure. if I think that's the thing, is that these guys are the bigger tech companies will be concerned about their supply, and it could likely come. The copper is pretty established markets. I don't think they really need to worry about copper supply, but definitely these more strategic metals and minerals. So lithium, cobalt, the rare earths. That's where you'll start to see it. And
how will money printing, the infinite money printing, and the incredible levels of global debt, how will this affect the silver market?
Well, it can only just drive it higher, and because silver is still held as a store of value and a hedge against inflation. It is a precious metal, and it's more, I guess, priced more favorably for more consumers to own. Everything's getting more expensive. I mean, the U.S. national debt's at, I don't know, $29 trillion right now, and climbing. And I just think, by the end of the current administration, maybe it's at $32 trillion or something like that. And then the next administration comes in 2024, and they go, well, we're going to need $10 trillion for the next 4 years. And now you're at $45 trillion. And I don't know when it stops, but it's crazy. Like it never stops. And things are getting more expensive. I see it every day. Prices are going up on everything I buy, everything I use. And you hear stories about, the Fed trying to engineer a soft landing. Well, I don't know. When you feed sugar water to mice, they get all excited about it and they like it, and then they don't want to stop it, and they just want to keep drinking sugar water. And we're kind of like that with the money supply. Like I don't want it turned off, and the next guy doesn't want it turned off. We're liking our life, but that I don't know where it ends. At some point, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, unfortunately, in this whole thing. And that's the part that really bites, because it's not a fair distribution. And so, you had the French Revolution, whatever it was, 300 years ago, because of an unfair distribution. And I don't know what happens at the end, but
so basically, when you look at this, you're just saying this seems to be a trend that is not going to be stopping anytime soon, and therefore, let's look at the beneficiaries of it. And of course, you've got your lithium company. You guys are applying, I believe, for New York Stock Exchange right now. I could be wrong.
We're working on a listing.
Working on that. So you got that. You got your gold company, and then you think the third part of the trifecta is, look, in this environment, we have to be focused on silver. And you think these are the places that one needs to be.
Absolutely. Like, I'm convinced that I can, and Apollo Silver is the one now, because that's what we chose to do, and that's what we're going to do. I'm convinced that we are going to be able to advance the assets that we bought, take them through a pre-feasibility, and then hopefully through a feasibility. We'll probably tie on another asset somewhere in it. We'll get a several-fold increase in the market capitalization of our company, and we'll sell it off to a bigger producer. And I'm quite confident that the playbook's written for that, and that's what we can do.
How long does it take for a process like that, or a plan like that, to unfold, a business plan like that? In the
5 years. 5 years.
5 years. And by 5 years from now, I mean, we should really begin to see some of those crunches from the electrification of vehicles, solar, everything like that. So that's you really stepped in obvious timing there, huh?
Yeah, I think timing's everything. I've said I've sold a couple companies and a couple assets already, and timing's everything. You get it right. We started the prime mining. I don't want to talk about that too much, but I just say, we started that right at 1260 gold. Was pretty well convinced gold was going to start to make a run, and started that company at 15 million market cap. It's a 500 million market cap company right now. And so,
so besides timing, what are the most important principles or qualities that, you're someone that's been around for 30 years, you've had, a lot of good successes. What are some of the important things that make a successful mining company, and how are you applying those with Apollo Silver?
management. Management. You've got to have the right team. You've got to have people that have done it before, know how to do it, and are vested along with your shareholders. And so on Apollo, Tom Paragudoff is our CEO. I hired Tom from semi-retirement. He's my age. He's done it before, 18 years with BHP, and then 7 years as a CEO for the Friedland organization. Guys that come out of the Friedland organization are solid. They understand capital markets. They understand building things and getting them sold too. So led off by Tom Paragudoff. Then we brought in a great resource geologist for VP of exploration. Now we're building out the whole team. Everybody's a big shareholder in the company. That all matters. And then, so yeah, the team. You got to have the right team.
Friedland, kind of going full circle here. So Friedland has a famous quote that he says that he believes that the revenge of the miners is coming. And he talks about the underinvestment in mining, how much is needed, and infrastructure and all these things. Do you think that that's what we're heading into, a revenge of the miners?
I guess I would like to believe that. I just don't know. Yeah, miners get a bad rap, because anybody that mines, generally to mine, you're digging a hole. And once you get the valuable part out of what you dug out, nobody wants to put it back. Nobody wants to, who wants to go clean up? You don't get paid to go clean it up. That costs money, and miners don't want to do that. And that's the problem. And so, but I think now that we're, California's got their backfill legislation, and we're starting to make some progress in operating better metallurgical methods and process methods. And I think, maybe miners are starting to clean up their act a lot more. And so maybe at the end of the day, with this whole new push of electrification and greening of the earth, maybe if the miners get it right, then maybe we do get that revenge, and we'll see. And I guess the other part of that's pricing too, right? If the prices are strong in all these metals, and maybe at the end of the day, we're all good. Looks like miners are making a big profit now. So maybe there's the revenge coming.
So Apollo Silver ticker symbol, is it it's APGOF in the United States, correct?
Yes, and APGO in Canada.
So give us some things to look forward to with Apollo Silver as we conclude.
So we bought those assets. They have historic resources. Those need to be converted to a 43101, which is the regulators' definitions of what we're allowed to say about what metals in the ground. And we will, over the next several months, convert those to 43101 compliant resources. And our peers typically trade at about $1.40 an ounce. We bought those ounces at 40 cents an ounce. We bought those historic ounces at 40 cents an ounce. So if and when we convert them to 43101 standards, and we will, then we should get a price escalation that keeps us in line with our peers. Then there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there. We looked at the deposits that are there, and a lot of the drill holes end in mineralization. There's a lot of areas where there's showings with no drilling. So we're convinced that, again, Waterloo and Langtree, because they were separate, now with us having them together, 1 and 1 is going to be 5 at the end of the day. So we're going to get to work. We've already been on site. We're getting our permitting now to start exploration. That will start this month in September. And now you'll start to see a lot of news flow out of Apollo and the advances as they come. And then I would suspect that, that that starts to feed well into the end of this year and then the bulk of next year. You'll also see some additions to the management team and probably the board as we go, and then and a lot of news flow from site. So that
And new website just launched, correct?
new website just launched, just went up the other day. So
we'll have the link to the new website right there down below. Just put it up. And make sure you hit the like button on this video, send it out in the YouTube universe, comment down below, go Silver, go. So that's Apollo Silver. And we were joined by Chairman Andrew, very, very, very successful in the mining industry for a very long time. And now for all of us silver bulls, we got to be getting excited because when someone like Andrew's starting to get their eyes focused on silver, I think it's good news for all of us over the next few years. So that's Apollo Silver. That's ticker symbol in the United States is APGOF. So comment down below, go Silver, go. Andrew, is there anything else important that I've missed?
no, I think you got it all, Jake. That's wonderful. And I just hope people reach out and have a look and see what we're doing.
So thanks for listening to today's episode. Make sure you hit the bell notification on this to get notified for future episodes. Check out the new Apollo Silver website, and we'll have some more updates from Apollo Silver here shortly.